Our first guest tonight on Adventures with Gary and Paul is the host of the Amazon Prime show Vintage America with Ginger. She's a star of stage and screen. You may have seen her on the Conan O'Brien show. And she's performed all over the world. She's a wonderful vocalist as well. She leads the band Ginger and the Hoosier Daddies. Please welcome to the Zoom room the lovely and talented Miss Ginger Pauley.
Thank you.
A lot of people are discovering you because of the pandemic, aren't they?
That's true. That's true. My show, Vintage America with Ginger, is on Amazon Prime and Tubi TV. And since everybody is home watching TV, I'm getting calls and not calls, actually calls, but I'm getting a lot of messages just about every day from people just discovering the show, which is really great.
Well, I discovered the show that way.
Really?
I was on Amazon Prime just looking around, and it's like, hey, there's Ginger. I discovered it, and I watched it without anybody telling me to.
Oh, how cool. That's called an organic reach.
Oh, my goodness.
There's a term for that.
There is. When somebody kind of discovers the show organically without seeing an ad or something like that, it's called an organic reach.
And there's a lot of that going on now because so many people are watching TV.
Right. Yeah.
And they've already watched all the action shows, and they're like, well, what's this vintage show with Ginger all about? Let's take a look. So can you tell us what it's all about?
Yes, it's about Vintage America, and I go all around America and talk about nostalgia and what things were and what they are now. So it's not necessarily a show about, what it was and it's gone now, or things that we miss or anything like that. It's actually a resurgence of vintage culture and nostalgia, and people trying to recreate that and bring that back. It's kind of like what we do with our music, you know?
So, Ginger, how did you develop this affinity for all things vintage?
I've actually kind of always had it. My grandma, my great aunts, and my mom used to take me around to estate sales and yard sales when I was a kid. And so I learned really early what stuff was. And I don't know, maybe it was the old movies I watched as a kid as well. I just fell into this. I don't know where it came from. I was just kind of born with it because, maybe it was just in my blood. I mean, America went through, oh my gosh, 1900s, the 1920s, we had World War I, then we had the Great Depression, and then we had Prohibition, which was like 13 years, and then after all of that, in the same year that we ended the Great Depression, we start World War II. It's like America's through a lot. And so it just seems like it wasn't until after World War II and we started putting things back together that we really had, the 1950s, and everything was being changed and everybody wanted everything new, and, our economy was really thriving.
A lot of the changes, the modern changes in society came in the late 50s, and I was born in the early 60s. So, I mean, really, our timing, the timing of our lives is just about right to look back on all that stuff as nostalgia. I mean, the items that are in our grandparents' basements, those are exactly the bits of nostalgia and Americana that I find particularly attractive.
My grandma was a picker. And like I said, my grandma and her sisters, they were from the Great Depression. They came over during the Dust Bowl in Oklahoma to Bakersfield, California. So the Grapes of Wrath, that's my grandparents. That's my family story. My grandma was the oldest of 8, and there would have been 10 kids. I think 2 or 3 died on the way over. It was really, really tough. And, my great aunts and my grandma, really taught me a lot of that stuff and the history of all that. My grandma helped someone write a book about the Great Depression and coming to California, and they wrote cookbooks and why they did things the way that they did them. And it's fascinating now to look back at that and go, wow, that's really tough. I can't imagine taking a trip from Oklahoma in an old truck and it taking months with a family of 10.
It's the same story repeating itself over and over again. The story of our ancestors thriving and making sacrifices so that we could have a better life. And look, we got it. It worked. Thank you, ancestors. If you heard Ginger sing, you would hear the sound of the 1920s. In fact, I have a picture, and you can almost hear the music just by looking at that picture. Look at these guys.
You were a Hoosier daddy. That was a fun gig.
This is such a warm and colorful and wonderful group of musicians who just want to do their best to honor the past.
That was a great gig. There were 9 of us. They wanted a big band in the backyard, and man, we did great. That was a great night.
I got a great picture of Ginger here too, because she did happen to mention our time that we did together at Universal Studios back in the day.
And I didn't just play Betty Boop.
Who else did you play?
Right. She played a variety of different people. So here,
okay, this picture. Okay,
this is a car set. You know, this is the band, and Ginger is Betty Boop right here. Gabby and the band in the break room, right?
Gosh.
Oh, that's good. Look at the kid behind bars over there on the right. Did you see that?
Wait, oh yeah, behind bars.
That was right in front of the gates at Universal, and the band used to do their sets there. And no matter what character I was, I wanted to hang out with the band. And those guys, you all were so great. I think every one of you guys have played with my Hoosier daddies.
And here she is Betty Rubble.
Betty Rubble. She looks just like her. Betty Rubble used to laugh through her nose. Can you do that?
We all developed such a great relationship at Universal. Ginger and this is Diane Vincent here. The two of them put together a Universal Studios reunion. What a wonderful time just for all of us to get together. I have a little surprise for you, Ginger.
Are we going to do one of our famous cameos?
This is one of our famous cameos here. Please welcome to the show, John Brand.
John Brand?
Yes! Yes!
These pictures are taking me down memory lane for sure.
Hey.
How you doing, Ginger?
Good to see you. Wow. Awesome.
So Ginger, I never did get to thank you. Guys, when she was about 3 or 4 years ago, our hockey team stayed in a mansion in La Habra Heights. It was so cool, built in the 30s. So we had Ginger come up, and she looked and she knew everything about the furniture and the decorations. And Ginger, I got to tell you, my hockey teammates were very impressed with me that I knew you.
Oh, that's so cool.
The first time we ever met Ginger Pauley was in the tiny little break room right next to the kennel. It was probably Nick and Phil were sitting
Corey.
in that break room, and a woody woodpecker came in and sat down on the couch next to us and pulled her head off, and it was Ginger Pauley.
Oh.
That was the first time we ever saw Ginger. I think it was Scarmack who took one look and said, well, that's a waste of a pretty face.
Oh. So we're talking about Nick Scarmack and Phil
Krawczak.
And
Yeah.
you also mentioned Corey Gem.
Yeah. Jim McMillan was in the band back then. Oh my gosh, Jim Davis. Yeah, so many great, talented people there. Such fun times.
Ginger has been doing vintage things as long as we've known her. She is indeed the vintage girl. You have your own radio show, do you not?
I do. It's kind of an offshoot of Vintage America with Ginger. It's called Vintage Living with Ginger.
Can you tell us about it?
We've done 3 episodes of Vintage Living with Ginger. We spoke to Chuck Garcera of King Richard's Antique Center, where I have an antique booth. And the second episode was about Besame Cosmetics. And then this last one, I talked with Nick Hershen of driveinmovie.com. And he has a full website of every drive-in movie in America and Canada. It was a really cool show because, with everybody trying to figure out right now how to do social distancing and how to see movies, bring back the drive-in movie, right?
So is there anything happening in this area with a drive-in theater?
There is. If you go to Montclair Drive-In, it's a tiki theme, and they're open. They've been open. They're open every day.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Now that sounds like a really nice alternative activity to do with the family, and they're not getting shut down.
I think that you have to buy your tickets online, and if you want to order food, you have to order it online.
I've just gone to their website, and here's the message that you see when you first go. By the way, the website for those at home who want to look this up is missiontiki.com. And the first thing it says is, we regret to inform you that the swap meet is closed, but the drive-in theater is open nightly.
How many of kids, when you were children, showed up to the drive-in in your pajamas?
Absolutely. We had a station wagon, so it was perfect. But they've got 4 screens going, and they're all double features.
Yeah, it's big news, you know, and a lot of the drive-ins are also using their space for other things like church services. There's even talk about band concerts happening at the drive-in.
We need to go to the drive-in theater. Paul, we should do a remote.
That would be a great idea. Tell us a little bit more about the music side of Ginger Pauley.
Well, as you know, I fell into the bands because of you guys, Universal. The jazz band was playing, and I would go out no matter what character I was playing. Usually as Betty Boop. I think that's probably where Corey Jem got his idea. I was playing Betty Boop, and I would go out and sing and dance with the band, no matter what character I was in, even if it was Woody Woodpecker. And Corey said to me one day, I play with this 1920s band, you should sing with them. And I said, well, tell that band leader to give me a call. And a year went by, and I kind of forgot about it. And I got this call from Mike Hennebrey, who...
Mike Hennebrey had a great 1920s band.
Yeah, who leads the Crazy Rhythm Hot Society Orchestra, and he was needing a singer. And I thought, wow, I've never sang with a band before, other than, you know, in theater on stage, you know, in a theater show. And I thought, well, sure, why not? And so Mike said, well, come on down and listen to some of the recordings that we've made. And so I did. And when I was there, he never asked me to sing. He just figured that a referral from Corey must mean that I could sing. And while I was there, he said, hey, we got this jazz festival in Spokane next week. Do you want to go? And next week I went, oh, okay, yeah, why not? And he gave me all the CDs, and he said, learn as many of these songs as you can. And so I went home, and I studied all the CDs and all the music, and got on a plane with 12 guys I'd never met. Well, 11 guys, because I had met Mike. And the rest is kind of history. I played with the 20s band, and Mike also had a 40s band, the Mike Hennebrey Orchestra. And so I started singing with that band as well. And after a few years, the gigs kind of started dwindling. It's really hard to hire a 10-piece, 12-piece, or 15-piece band in the case.
It'd be a lot easier if they bring back Prohibition.
So I decided to start my own band in a smaller version with the same music. And Chris Dearle helped me with that, and Mike helped me with that. Dean Mora wrote charts for me, you know, the ones that I wanted to do, and I collaborated with him, which was really cool. And I just liked the vintage thing. I just kind of fell into it and wanted to do it, and I wanted to do songs that not every other vintage band was doing.
There was a time when I would carry a film camera around just to document the experiences that I had. Look at this gorgeous picture of us. Isn't that spectacular?
Yeah,
Oh my God.
That's a great picture.
That was a concert in the park in Huntington Beach.
That's right. In this picture, I happen to be holding a C Melody saxophone. This C Melody saxophone was sold to me by Mike Hennebrey. I said to him, what song should I learn if I'm going to play a C Melody? And you know what he told me? Saxophobia. But what a great picture of us. What a great memory that day in the park.
That was great. And I seem to remember, Gary, you doing another gig with us at the Old Town Music Hall where you played the theremin. And such a hit. We're such a hit. It was amazing because we played songs, a couple songs that we've never played before because they needed a theremin, and you're the theremin guy.
The theremin was introduced in the 20s. So for it to be used in music in the 30s, oh, it was so cutting edge. So cutting edge. I was the only person in the band that needed an electrical outlet. Where do I plug in? The stage manager's like, we've never had this problem before. Here's the band.
Cutest
Actually, that video, I was contacted by HBO. Every year, HBO does a camera assessment test where they test 7 or 8 different new cameras. And they said, we want to do this 1920s speakeasy kind of thing. Would you guys be interested in doing this? So we got paid to make it, which was great. And then after they were done doing the camera assessment, they made me that music video.
I'm Ginger Pauley, the vintage girl. Join me and my friends as we explore vintage America.
This is the vintage version of that.
The conventional mill.
Even though you have that one, you still need this.
And it could have been somebody that just needed a lot of trunk space.
Ginger, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Absolutely. And John, thank you for joining us too and surprising Ginger.
Oh, thanks for putting out the word. Ginger, it's so nice to see you.
Great to see you, John.
You're the best.
And I hope all of our listeners will consider going to a drive-in movie and supporting that industry.